Hi everyone, welcome to the weekly Lanzarote news and weather. I'm Mike from Lanzarote Information. It's great to welcome you here again, and as you can see I'm outside. I'm back outside now because it's not too hot. Over the last few weeks it's been super hot here and uncomfortable being outside at this time of day. You may get a little bit of noise. The La Casa de los Naranjos, which is right across the road there, has started building work on the other buildings at the small boutique hotel. Juan Antonio won a grant, an award, in order to carry on the restoration on the other parts of the building, so good luck to him. But it does mean that you might hear the odd truck and crane and stuff like that. But the plans look lovely. There's going to be a swimming pool there and all kinds of additional rooms. So if you're a fan, do keep an eye on their website for updates. Now, as always in the news, we'll be covering the local Lanzarote news over the last week. I'll give you an update on the weather situation here. And we'll be doing somewhere in the middle of the bulletin some useful Spanish words for you, continuing the ones that we did last week. You remember we talked about the what, why, where, how, who and when words. Well, we're going to be finishing off those this week, and right at the end I'll be giving you 3 things you could be doing if you're on the island over the next 7 days. I'm sporting my Scuderia Ferrari t-shirt today because it's the weekend of the Monza Grand Prix, the Italian Grand Prix. Unfortunately, they haven't paid me vast fortunes of money to wear it on this video, but I thought I'd put it on anyway, and my fingers are crossed for the team, for both Lewis and Charles, for this weekend. So let's crack on with the news now, and the first story involves Ryanair, the budget airline, and you may have seen stories which are all over the Northern European press suggesting that Ryanair are cutting millions of seats on flights to Spain, and they are doing so because the Spanish government has refused to extend subsidies on landing fees at most Spanish airports to them, and their reaction to that is to say that okay, we're going to stop flying. The impact on Lanzarote is very small actually. It's only 4 flights out of 135 weekly flights that are being cut in relation to this island. So the impact for those of you who visit here regularly will be very, very small. As I say, 4 flights a week less, 131 versus 135 last winter. A very sad story this week. We had a drowning in Matagorda. These don't happen that often on the island, considering how much time people spend in and around the water. But this was a 70-year-old French lady who unfortunately suffered a cardiac arrest while swimming off the beach in Matagorda. She was taken ashore by other people who were on the beach. They called the emergency services. They gave her CPR, both the people who pulled her out of the water and then the emergency services took over, but they were unable to revive her. So our thoughts are with the family. Now, next up, for the first time ever in the period from January to July of a year, Lanzarote had more than 2 million tourist visitors, and this year to date our tourist visitors are up 4.8% on last year, which of course was a record. So we reached 3.4 million tourists on the island last year. I said at the start of this year I thought that we might hit 3.5 million. I think I'm going to be proved wrong, and it will be higher than 3.5 million. My personal view, those of you who read the newsletter will know this, is that's a bit too many, and we really need to find a way to reduce it slightly, but it just keeps growing and growing year on year. Now, next up, the police raided a designer clothing factory in Arrecife, and this was basically a factory that was buying unbranded goods from Madrid, bringing them to the island and then printing them with designer labels. A load of brands were listed: Chanel, Gucci, it just Hugo Boss. It just went on and on and on. And this was a pretty serious operation. Apparently, the police seized around 8 million euros worth of goods from this factory in Arrecife. And as you probably know, if you're a regular visitor, those fake designer clothes are being sold in some of the bazaar shops in the tourist resorts and at places like Teguise Market on a Sunday. Some people may say, well, there's not really, what's the big deal? Because they know that they're not buying a real a Gucci handbag for, you know, 25 euros or something. And yeah, that's true, but it is impinging Gucci's rights to their trademark and all the effort they put into producing their products. But the other aspect to it is that it almost always seems to be linked to other kind of illegal activity. And certainly in this warehouse, when the police raided it, they found that several of the people working there were undocumented. They didn't have identification papers with them. They weren't in the social security system. They weren't paying tax. They were basically illegal on the island. So, you know, that's the connection. But that's been closed down now, and those goods have been seized. Now, this is just an amazing story. The largest bird that ever lived on planet Earth is a bird called the elephant bird, and it lived here in Lanzarote. Now, I don't know if you've been following the news here for some time, but about 18 months, maybe 2 years ago, a load of fossilized eggs were found in the Famara Cliffs. And they were thought at the time to be ostrich eggs, and they were sent away for analysis. And it's now been discovered that they were the eggs of this elephant bird, which lived on this island around 4 million years ago. And these birds were native to Madagascar, and it's thought a small number of them came over to Lanzarote and laid their eggs. What's astonishing and also very scary to me, because I'm not really that, I don't really have a great affinity with birds, is that these birds were up to 3 meters tall. So we're talking 9 or 10 feet tall. And they could weigh up to 600 kilograms, so that's more than half a ton. And I just imagine running into one of these birds on the Famara Cliffs one day. I would run an absolute mile. But anyway, it's a really fascinating story, and there's more to come from it as they learn more about the habitat and more importantly, how they ended up here, because they were flightless birds. We mentioned Ryanair at the top, and there was another Ryanair story this week when an incoming flight from Manchester had a disruptive passenger on board that was drunk and being violent to other passengers. The captain radioed ahead. Air traffic control vectored the aircraft straight in and held other traffic so that it could get in quickly, and the aircraft was met by the Guardia Civil, who dealt with the person as necessary. But I've said this before and I'll say it again, these things happen too often, and I'm beginning to wonder if the simplest thing that can be done at this end is simply to deny people entry. So, you know, when that happens, the police have to meet an aircraft, the person is taken off the aircraft, turned around and just sent back to the country they came from, perhaps with a ban from returning to Spain again in the next year or two or whatever it is. I wonder if that's the best way of dealing with it, but I'd be interested to hear what you think. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. How do we solve this problem? Now then, let's talk about the 3 useful Spanish words I'm going to share with you this week, and as I said at the top, they are a continuation of the words that we started off with last week. And the first of them is por qué, which means why. In fact, if you look at the 2 words it's made up of, it literally is for what, but it's por qué is why. And you'll hear it used all the time in Spanish, and one of the most common phrases where it's used would be por qué no? Why not? Next up, we've got the word for which is cuál. And again, very commonly used. Let me try and think of an example. If you're going into a restaurant and you've asked if they have a table available, and they say yes, of course, you would then possibly say cuál mesa, which table, cuál mesa, which table, so that the person can point out the one that they would like you to sit at. And finally, in these words, we've got cómo, which means how. So again, another example of the way cómo would be used is in the very, very commonly used phrase, ¿cómo estás? How, in other words, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? Okay, back to the news now, and we are going to have a record 160 cruise ship stopovers in Arrecife between now and the end of the year. There are a few coming in September, a few more coming in October, but the bulk of them will be coming in November and December. And the Canary Islands has become a really good cruise destination for the lines who perhaps in the past will have moved their ships from the Mediterranean in the winter to the Caribbean, they've realised they don't need to go all the way to the Caribbean to find places with great weather. So they're now more and more commonly bringing their ships to the Canary Islands. More good economic news for Lanzarote. Another 112 people came off the dole in the month of August. So unemployment on the island has been falling consistently now ever since the pandemic. So far this year to date, the total number has fallen by around 8%. Now this next one was a story that really took me by surprise because I hadn't heard anything about it. But there is an Irish film set in Lanzarote called Signs of Life. Now I would normally hear about a film being shot here, but I wasn't aware of it at all, so I don't know when the shooting took place. But it's called Signs of Life, and it opens in cinemas in Ireland and the UK, or opened in cinemas in Ireland and the UK on the 5th of September, so that was Friday. So look out for that one. It sounds an oddly dark story, and it stars Sarah Jane Potts. And she doesn't speak during the film. She isn't mute, her character isn't mute, but chooses simply not to speak after having suffered a bereavement. And it's about her relationship with another Irish person she meets on holiday here on the island. So if you do see it, or you have seen it, do let me know. I'd be really interested to hear what I can about it. I can't see that it's on in any of the cinemas here yet, but it may come in the not too distant future. Now then, UD Lanzarote are back. Unión Deportivo Lanzarote are the football team based in Arrecife, the Rojillos. They wear red like I am today. And they have their first home game of the season back at home at the Centro Deportivo, the sports centre in Arrecife, which has a brand new pitch and has been refurbished over the last year or so. And this first match, which kicks off at 12 noon on Sunday, is a bit of a local derby because they're playing CD Tenerife. Now you can just rock up there and pay on the door. I've got the prices here. Adults are €10, pensioners €8. Kids 15 and under are completely free. There are also discounts for residents. If you want to know anything about UD Lanzarote and football on the island, Ian Lane is your man, and he runs the website lanzarotefootball.com. So go and visit that. It's full of useful information, the history of the club. It tells you how to get to the sports ground from various places on the island via taxi or bus. And Ian is also the guy who brings in and creates the UD Lanzarote shirt. So you probably will have met him if you've ever been to Teguise Market, because he runs the stall that sells the shirts that the players wear. So that's this coming Sunday, and also on the website that I mentioned, lanzarotefootball.com, you'll see a list of all their fixtures for this coming year. So good luck to the Rojillos for the 25-26 season. Just two more quick stories to go before we get into things you could be doing here on the island next week. And the first of them was that there was a 2.3 on the Richter scale earthquake just off the northern coast of Lanzarote this week. We didn't feel it, and we are in the north of Lanzarote, so it was obviously far enough offshore for it not to be an issue, and the quake took place 7 kilometres below the surface of the sea. These are very common here. I think Tenerife have had a number of tremors over the last few weeks. They're not really a big deal, and we have really impressive monitoring systems on all of the islands that record what's going on and predict any big events. But there hasn't really been a big event here in Lanzarote since 1824. And finally on the news, there is a bill going through the Spanish main government, which is looking to ban smoking on terraces of bars and restaurants, as well as other outdoor public areas. It's not certain to come into law. It may be stopped in its tracks, but it is going through at the moment. And the reason I mention it is that has sparked a lot of debate on the island from bar and restaurant owners. And as far as I can see, they're split almost equally three ways. You've got one group who absolutely hate the idea, another group who think it's a brilliant idea, and a third group who think that they should be making the decision as owners of the bars or businesses whether they choose to have a smoking area on their terraces or not. So I don't know whether that bill will be refined as it goes through or even passed, but I'll keep you posted on it. Now it's time for 3 things you could be doing if you're on the island next week. And the first of those is to go and visit and enjoy the circus. Now this is taking place in Arrecife around Chacro San Ginés, which is the lagoon in the centre of town. And this started on Friday the 5th of September and it runs through until Sunday the 7th of September, and it's completely free of charge. It's being paid for by the Ayuntamiento of Arrecife. The hours on Friday the 5th were 6 until 11 at night, but on Saturday the 6th and on Saturday the 6th it's running from 11 in the morning until 11 at night. And on Sunday the 7th, it will run from 11 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. And it is a traditional, proper circus. They've got traditional circus acts, they've got games, workshop, parades, food trucks, and all kinds of things. So that might be quite nice to get along to on Saturday or Sunday if you're on the island. Now next up is an event you must do if you are on the island over the next 10 days or so. And this is the annual craft fair at Mancha Blanca. And this is all part of the whole Dolores fiesta that takes place there to give thanks to the Virgin that prevented Mancha Blanca being overrun by lava during an eruption. And this is the 36th year of the craft fair and it's absolutely superb. It attracts artisan workers from all over the Canaries who come in and show off their wares really. So you'll see cigar makers there, hat makers, leather workers, artists in metal and glass and all kinds of stuff. It's well worth a visit and we always make a point of going to the craft fair. Obviously entry is completely free and that runs from Wednesday the 10th of September until the 15th of September. And you can see the full timings and all the events taking place on our website, lanzeratiinformation.co.uk. And finally, on Friday the 12th of September, you'll be able to watch the Scartoons play in Playa Blanca. And the Scartoons are one of the, if not the best known bands on the island. They're a large bunch of musicians who work regularly here in other bands and as solo artists who come together every now and then to become the Scartoons, and they play ska music and they have a really, really high energy gigs that everyone loves and thoroughly enjoys. So they're playing next Friday at Las Brisas Bar in Playa Blanca at 9 o'clock. Details are on our website, what's on, and if you're in, well, whether you're into ska music or not is irrelevant. You'll have a great time if you go along and enjoy this event. Well, that's it for this week. Once again, thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate each one of you that watches these videos. If you've liked it, please give us a like. Have you got a comment or a question or anything you want to know about Lanzarote, just leave it in a comment below. I read all of those and I will always come back to you. That's it. Thank you so much for watching once again, and bye for now, everybody. Bye.